They called her the cleaning lady. For 8 months, Evelyn Thorne had scrubbed blood off linoleum floors at Chicago Mercy Hospital. She arrived at 11 each night when the fluorescent lights buzzed their loneliest. She left at 7 each morning when the day shift pretended not to see her. She was 56 years old. Her hair had gone silver 3 years ago, and she'd stopped dyeing it. Her shoulders curved forward like a question mark. When she walked, there was a hitch in her left leg, a slight drag, the kind of limp that made people look away. The other nurses called her ma'am out of politeness. The doctors didn't call her anything at all. None of them knew that the tremor in her hands wasn't age, it was muscle memory fighting to stay dormant. None of them knew that the limp wasn't weakness. It was 16 pounds of shrapnel still lodged near her spine. And absolutely none of them knew that before she mopped their floors, Evelyn Thorne had spent 28 years as a Navy chief medical officer. She had held the lives of dying men in those shaking hands. She had performed surgery in sandstorms and inside burning vehicles. She had earned a Navy Cross for saving 17 Marines during a 12-hour firefight in Kandahar, Afghanistan. But that was another life. This life was smaller, quieter, safer, or so she thought. Tuesday night, 11:47. The emergency department hummed with its usual low-grade chaos. A drunk was shouting in bed 3. An elderly woman with pneumonia gasped wetly in bed 7. The cardiac monitor in bay 4 beeped its steady rhythm, indifferent to human suffering. Evelyn pushed her cleaning cart down the main corridor. The wheels squeaked. One of them always pulled to the left. She'd learned to compensate. Her back ached tonight. It always ached, but tonight felt worse. The barometric pressure was dropping. Storm coming. Her body was a better weather forecast than any meteorologist. She stopped outside Trauma Bay 1, grabbed the mop from the cart. The handle was cold aluminum, familiar. She'd held far heavier things. The water in the bucket was gray. She'd already cleaned the waiting room, the triage desk, and both staff bathrooms. This was her last section. Then she could disappear into the break room, eat her sandwich, avoid eye contact, go home. Simple, invisible, exactly how she wanted it. "Thorne!" The voice cracked through the hallway like a whip. Evelyn didn't flinch. She'd been shouted at by sergeants, by colonels, by men whose voices could strip paint. This was nothing. Dr. Donovan Ashford strode toward her, 37 years old, 6 feet tall, hair the color of old money. He wore his white coat like a cape. His stethoscope hung around his neck like jewelry. He was handsome in the way that made photographers follow him. Sharp jaw, blue eyes, perfect teeth that had never known a moment of doubt. He was also the hospital's star trauma surgeon, the one they put on billboards, the one who did interviews about saving lives while checking his reflection in the camera lens. And he hated Evelyn, not because she'd done anything to him, but because she existed in his orbit without performing the required worship. "Thorne," he said again. He never used her first name, never used her rank, just her last name, like she was a servant. "Are you deaf or just incompetent?" 3 nurses stood at the nearby station. Sharon, the charge nurse, a 20-year veteran who'd seen everything. Melissa, young and eager. And Tom, a male nurse who kept his head down and his opinions quieter. All 3 looked up. This was the nightly entertainment, watching Dr. Ashford humiliate the old cleaning lady. Evelyn set the mop down carefully. She straightened. Her back protested. She ignored it. "Dr. Ashford," she said. Her voice was soft, flat. "How can I help you? You can start by doing your job." He pointed toward bed 6. "I asked for a standard saline drip for the patient in 6 10 minutes ago. Why is he still dry?" Evelyn had been mopping 15 feet away when he'd given that order. To Sharon. Not to her, but facts didn't matter to men like Ashford. "The patient in bed 6, Evelyn said slowly, has a documented history of congestive heart failure. His chart wasn't updated tonight, but I noticed the edema in his ankles, bilateral, severe. A standard saline load could cause pulmonary edema. I was waiting for you to review his vitals and adjust the drip rate accordingly." The corridor went quiet. Sharon's pen stopped moving. Melissa's mouth opened slightly. Tom looked at his shoes. Dr. Ashford's face did something complicated. First surprise, then confusion, then anger, the kind that turns skin red from the collar up. "You noticed?" He laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. "You noticed ankle swelling, Thorne? Let me ask you something. How long have you been a nurse?" "I'm not a—" "That's right. You're not." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Woody. "You're a cleaning lady. I graduated top of my class from Yale Medical School." "Do you know where you went to school, Thorne?" Evelyn said nothing. "Some community college, I'm guessing. Tennessee, Alabama, one of those places." He waved his hand dismissively. "The point is, in this hospital, nurses don't diagnose. They certainly don't second-guess doctors. They do what they're told. Are we clear?" Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him. She saw a boy who'd never been told no, who'd never held a dying man and felt the exact moment life left, who'd never had to choose between saving one patient or another because there wasn't enough blood for both. She saw someone who'd confused credentials with competence. "Crystal clear, doctor," she said. "Good. Now hang that bag before I write you up for insubordination. We clear?" "Yes, sir." He turned on his heel, walked away. His footsteps echoed importantly on the linoleum. Sharon waited until he was out of earshot. Then she leaned toward Melissa. "God, she's pathetic," Sharon whispered, loud enough for Evelyn to hear. "No backbone at all. I don't even know how she got hired." Melissa giggled. "I heard she used to work at a nursing home, you know. Bingo and pudding cups. Not exactly ER material." "She'll wash out by Christmas," Sharon said. "Mark my words." Evelyn heard every syllable. Her hearing had been tested at perfect pitch during her medical officer training, a requirement for combat medicine. You needed to hear the difference between incoming and outgoing fire, between a sucking chest wound and a tension pneumothorax, between a dying man's last breath and the one before it. She heard everything. She always had. Evelyn walked to the supply closet, opened the door, stepped inside, let it close behind her with a soft click. For 3 seconds, she let the mask drop, her posture straightened, her shoulders squared, her eyes went cold and sharp. The eyes of a woman who'd performed field amputations by flashlight, who'd intubated a 19-year-old Marine while his friends returned fire 6 feet away. She took a breath, counted it down. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. The tremor in her hands intensified, not from fear, from the effort of staying still, of staying small, of not grabbing Dr. Ashford by his $500 tie and explaining exactly how many ways his ego could kill someone. She grabbed the saline bag. She would hang it at the rate she knew was safe. When Ashford wasn't looking, she'd adjust the flow. The patient would never know how close he'd come to drowning in his own lungs. Dr. Ashford would never know he'd been wrong. This was the 3rd time this week she'd saved a patient from his incompetence. Evelyn opened the door, put the mask back on, hunched her shoulders, limped back to bed 6, invisible again, exactly how it needed to be. The emergency call came at 12:17. The automatic doors exploded open. 2 paramedics burst through, pushing a gurney at a run. Police officers flanked them. Radios crackled. Boots pounded. "GSW," the lead paramedic shouted. "Male, mid-20s, 2 shots, chest and thigh. BP crashing, 80/50. Dr. Ashford transformed instantly. This was his stage, his moment. "Get him to Trauma 1, he barked. "Sharon, you're with me. Melissa, call radiology. Tom, prep the crash cart." He didn't look at Evelyn. She melted against the wall. A shadow. A piece of furniture. The gurney flew past her, but Evelyn saw what the others missed. The patient. 25 years old, black jeans, white t-shirt, soaked red. But the blood wasn't just coming from his chest. There was something else. Something darker, faster. His inner thigh. The denim was wet. not the slow seep of venous blood, the rapid saturation of arterial flow. Femoral bleed. If they focused on the chest and ignored the leg, he'd be dead in 3 minutes. Evelyn's brain shifted gears. 30 years of training kicked in without permission. She tracked the blood pattern, calculated the trajectory, estimated the damage. Femoral artery. Severed or nicked, deep in the muscle, hidden by the thick denim. The chest wound was dramatic, visible, scary, but not the killer. The leg was the killer. Inside Trauma Bay 1, Dr. Ashford cut the patient's shirt open with scissors. Blood everywhere. The patient's chest heaved, gasped. "Tension pneumothorax," Ashford announced. "Prep the needle decompression. We need to crack the chest if he's tamponating." He was wrong. Evelyn knew he was wrong, but she was just the cleaning lady. "Doctor," she said quietly. No one heard her. "Pulse is thready," Sharon called out. "BP's dropping, 70/40. "Get me the chest kit," Ashford ordered. "Now." "Doctor." Evelyn spoke louder. "The leg." Ashford didn't turn around. "Thorne, I said stay out of the way." Evelyn looked at the clock. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. She looked at the patient. His face was gray. His lips were turning blue. His right leg lay at an odd angle. The foot pointed outward. Classic sign of massive femoral injury. She looked at Sharon, at Melissa, at Tom. No one else saw it. 2 minutes. Evelyn made a decision, not with her brain, with her hands. Muscle memory is a powerful thing. You can bury it, suppress it, hide it under years of mopping floors and keeping quiet, but you can't kill it. Evelyn moved. To the observers, it looked like a blur. 1 second she was against the wall, the next she was at the foot of the gurney. She didn't ask permission. She didn't wait for approval. She reached into her pocket, pulled out trauma shears, the heavy-duty kind, matte black steel, serrated edge. She'd carried them for 28 years. She'd never stopped carrying them. In one fluid motion, she ripped the patient's jeans from knee to hip. Blood erupted, not a trickle, not a flow, a geyser. It hit the glass cabinet 3 feet away, splattered like thrown paint. The cabinet door turned red. "What the hell are you doing?" Sharon shrieked. "Doctor!" Ashford froze. The scalpel hovered over the patient's chest. Evelyn didn't answer. She jammed her fist directly into the open wound. Her knuckles disappeared into torn muscle. Hot blood poured over her wrist. She felt for the artery, found it, a slippery tube, pulsing. Trying to empty the patient's entire blood volume onto the floor, she clamped it against the femur bone. The fountain stopped. Instantly. "Femoral artery," Evelyn said. Her voice had changed, no longer soft, no longer small. It was the voice of a woman who'd given orders in combat zones. Flat, clear, authoritative, completely severed. He didn't have a cardiac tamponade. He was hypovolemic from the leg bleed. If you'd cracked his chest, the pressure differential would have killed him in 30 seconds. The trauma bay went silent. The only sound was the monitor. Beep, beep, beep. The heart rate was stabilizing. The blood pressure ticked up. 85/60. 90/65, Doctor. Ashford stared at the leg, then at Evelyn's blood-soaked hand, then at her face. His ego tried to catch up with reality. Reality won. "Clamp," he choked out. Sharon fumbled, handed him a vascular clamp. Ashford moved in. His hands were shaking. He positioned the clamp. "I've got it. Step back." Evelyn released the artery carefully, stepped back, held her hands up. Blood coated her from fingertips to elbows. "Get him to surgery," Ashford muttered. "Now." The team rushed the patient out. The adrenaline drained from the room. Evelyn walked to the sink, turned on the water. It ran pink, then red, then pink again. She scrubbed her hands, methodical, thorough, the way she'd been trained. Sharon stood frozen, staring. "How did you know?" Sharon asked. Her voice was different now, suspicious, careful. The blood wasn't even soaking through the jeans yet. "How did you know it was arterial?" Evelyn dried her hands with a paper towel. "I saw the way his foot was turned," she said, "and the color of his skin. Gray, not pale. That indicates lower extremity loss of circulation. That's not in any nursing handbook, Sharon said slowly. I read a lot. Evelyn threw the paper towel in the trash. She walked out of Trauma Bay 1. Her shoulders rolled forward again. The hunch returned. The limp came back. By the time she reached the hallway, she was invisible again, but Sharon wasn't buying it anymore. She walked to the counter where Evelyn had left the trauma shears. Picked them up. These weren't hospital issue. They were military grade. Heavy. Worn. The handle had scratches. Years of friction. Sharon turned them toward the light. Engraved on the handle. Barely visible. A small insignia. An anchor. An eagle. A caduceus. And beneath it, in tiny letters, E. Thorne, CMO-USN. Sharon frowned. She didn't know what CMO meant. She didn't know what USN stood for. She assumed it was some kind of brand name. She dropped the shears back on the tray. Weirdo, she muttered. But something bothered her, something she couldn't name, a feeling that she'd just witnessed something important, something she didn't understand. She picked up the shears again, held them, felt the weight. These had been used, a lot. The edges were sharp, but the metal was worn smooth in places, like they'd cut through thousands of things. Sharon slipped them into her pocket, just in case. The next morning, Evelyn was summoned to the administrator's office. She'd known it was coming. Mr. Patterson sat behind a mahogany desk. He was 63 years old, thin, balding. He wore suits that cost more than Evelyn's monthly rent. He'd never worked a shift in an emergency room, never touched a patient, never saved a life. But he ran the hospital. Dr. Ashford sat in the chair beside him, perfectly groomed, perfectly composed, smug. A hospital lawyer sat in the corner. Young woman, nervous, taking notes. Ms. Thorne, Patterson began. He folded his hands. We have a situation. Is the patient okay? Evelyn asked. The patient is alive. Yes. Patterson waved his hand dismissively, but Dr. Ashford has filed a formal complaint regarding your conduct last night. He slid a paper across the desk. Evelyn read it. Reckless interference with surgical procedure, unauthorized medical treatment by unqualified personnel, endangering patient welfare, gross insubordination, creation of hostile work environment. She looked up. Doctor. Ashford leaned back in his chair. You got lucky, Thorne. You guessed right. But in my ER, we follow the chain of command. You don't put your hands on a patient unless I tell you to. You're not a doctor. You're barely qualified to mop floors. You're a massive liability to this institution. I saved his life, Evelyn said quietly. You got blood on my shoes, Ashford countered. Do you know how much these cost? Patterson cleared his throat. Ms. Thorne, the board has reviewed this incident. Given the severity of the violation and the potential legal exposure, we have no choice but to terminate your employment effective immediately. He pushed another paper toward her. Termination notice. Cause. Unqualified personnel performing invasive medical procedures, endangering patient safety, violation of hospital protocols. Evelyn stared at the paper. She thought about the letter in her apartment, the one from Admiral Garrett Blackwood, the one that had arrived 3 weeks ago asking her to consult on a new trauma protocol, the one she'd ignored. She thought about the last patient she'd lost in Kandahar, a 19-year-old Marine named Danny Reeves, blown apart by an IED. She'd held his hand while he died, told him he was brave, told him it would be okay. It hadn't been okay. She'd retired 2 years later, came here to hide, to be small, to never lose anyone again. Because if you didn't try to save them, you couldn't fail. Evelyn picked up the pen. Is that all? She asked. Patterson blinked. You're not going to argue? Defend yourself? Would it matter? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Security will escort you out. We need your badge and any hospital property. Evelyn unpinned the hospital ID from her scrubs. Evelyn Thorne, night shift, support staff. She placed it on the desk. A security guard appeared in the doorway. Young man, apologetic. He handed her a cardboard box. "For your things, ma'am," he said softly. Evelyn took the box. Dr. Ashford stood, extended his hand. "No hard feelings, Thorne, but you understand? Standards must be maintained." Evelyn looked at his hand, didn't take it. "Dr. Ashford," she said quietly, "in 28 years, I learned one thing. Credentials without competence kill people. Standards without wisdom are just rules, and pride without humility is just ego." She turned to the security guard. "I'm ready." She walked to her locker, opened it. In it, a change of clothes, a photo in a frame, Danny Reeves in his dress blues, smiling, 18 years old, taken 2 weeks before he deployed. She put the photo in the box. The security guard walked her to the exit. Through the ER, past the nurse's station, past Trauma Bay 1. Sharon watched, looked away, looked back. Something in her expression had changed, not quite shame, not quite curiosity. Something in between. Melissa whispered something to Tom. Dr. Ashford was nowhere to be seen. The automatic doors opened. Rain, cold, heavy, the kind that soaked through everything. Evelyn walked to her truck, a 2004 Ford F-150. Rust on the wheel wells, dent in the tailgate. It had been her father's. He'd given it to her when she joined the Navy, said every sailor needed a truck to come home to. She climbed in, set the box on the passenger seat, sat in the silence. Rain hammered the roof. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Heard the news. "You okay?" Blackwood Admiral Garrett Blackwood, her commanding officer for 12 years. The man who'd pinned the Navy Cross on her chest. The man whose son she'd saved in Baghdad in 2004. The man who'd tried to convince her not to retire. She typed, "I'm fine," deleted it, typed, "Yes, sir," deleted that too, put the phone down. She looked at the photo of Danny in the box. "I'm done," she whispered. "I'm done trying to save people who don't want to be saved. I'm done working for people who think a degree matters more than a pulse." The rain kept falling. Evelyn started the truck, put it in gear, drove toward home. She didn't look back. Behind her, in the hospital, a young man lay in recovery, his femoral artery repaired, his life saved. He would wake up in 6 hours, confused, sore, alive. He would never know the name of the woman who'd jammed her fist into his leg. He would never know she'd spent 28 years in the Navy. He would never know that Dr. Donovan Ashford had been about to kill him. But he would live. He would go home to his family, his girlfriend, his life. And that was enough, or it should have been. But in Evelyn's apartment that night, as she unpacked that cardboard box, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd made a mistake, not in saving the patient, in walking away. Because somewhere out there people were dying, and she was one of the few who could save them. But she'd retired, she'd quit. She'd chosen safety over service. She looked at Danny's photo. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked the picture. Danny smiled back, forever 18, forever trusting her. Evelyn didn't have an answer. She went to bed. But she didn't sleep. Because 48 hours later, everything would change. A sound would come, a call she couldn't ignore, and the ghost would rise again, Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock, 48 hours since the termination. Evelyn's apartment was small, 3rd floor, no elevator, 1,200 square feet of second-hand furniture and silence. She'd spent the morning packing. Cardboard boxes lined the living room wall, kitchen items, books, clothes folded military precise, everything labeled in black marker, everything ready to move. She was going back to Montana, back to her father's old ranch. 40 acres of nothing, no hospitals, no doctors, no dying patients she couldn't save, just silence. That was the plan. The television was on, background noise, local news she wasn't really watching until the banner flashed red. Breaking news. Evelyn looked up from the box she was taping. The anchor's face filled the screen, young, female, trying to look serious, but the fear leaked through. "We're getting reports of an active situation at the Federal Reserve Building in downtown Chicago. Multiple agencies responding. We're hearing unconfirmed reports of possible chemical agents. SWAT teams are on scene, but communications are limited. We're going to go live to our reporter on the ground. The camera cut to a shaky handheld shot. Sirens, police cars, ambulances. A perimeter being established 3 blocks out. Civilians running, chaos. But that wasn't what caught Evelyn's attention. In the background, behind the police line, black SUVs, 4 of them. Suburban models, windows tinted dark, no markings, no lights. Men getting out, not police, not SWAT. Multicam uniforms, plate carriers, helmets, HK-416 rifles with suppressors. They moved in a pattern Evelyn recognized instantly. Diamond formation, overlapping fields of fire. Tactical advance, weapon discipline. That wasn't SWAT, that was DevGru. Naval Special Warfare Development Group, the unit that didn't officially exist. The one that operated in places the government would never acknowledge. The one she'd supported for 12 years. Her heart rate increased. Not panic. Recognition. The camera zoomed in on the Federal Reserve Building. Smoke coming from a 3rd-floor window. People at the windows. Trapped. The reporter was talking, but Evelyn didn't hear the words. She was watching the team. The way the point man cleared angles. The way the second operator covered high. The way the third scanned for threats. The way they moved like a single organism. She'd trained with men who moved like that. She'd operated with them in Kandahar, Baghdad, Somalia, places that didn't make the news. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter. It buzzed. Once. Evelyn looked at it, kept packing. It buzzed again. 3 short vibrations. Emergency pattern. Evelyn stopped moving. That pattern meant one thing. Critical situation. Immediate response required. No time for protocol. No time for permission. She walked to the counter, picked up the phone. Unknown number. She answered. Thorne. The voice on the other end was distorted by wind and rotor noise. Male, deep, urgent, familiar. Ghost. It's Viper. We have a situation. Lieutenant Commander Wade Callahan. Call sign Viper. SEAL Team 6. She'd operated with him in Kandahar in 2009. Trained him in field trauma protocols. Watched him earn his trident the hard way. Held his hand when they'd pronounced his best friend KIA after a firefight in Helmand Province. Viper, Evelyn said carefully. I'm retired. I know. We're in Chicago. Bio-threat downtown. VX2 nerve gas. Our medic took exposure trying to extract a civilian. He's down hard. We've got 1 operator with direct skin contact. 8 minutes ago, Evelyn's blood went cold. VX2, not the old Soviet variant, the new one. Chinese design, faster acting, broader spectrum, no standard antidote. He's got minutes, Evelyn said. Maybe 10 at most. 9 now, maybe 8. Ghost, you're the only person in this hemisphere who knows the experimental protocol. The only one who's run it successfully. We need you. Now. Viper, I can't. I'm not certified anymore. I'm not... Ghost. His voice cut through, sharp, desperate. I wouldn't ask if there was anyone else. The operator is 24 years old. His name is Marcus Webb. He's got a wife, 8 months pregnant, baby girl. He was supposed to rotate home next week. I need you to save him, please. Evelyn closed her eyes, saw Danny's face. 19 years old, bleeding out in the Afghan sand. Nothing she could do. Holding his hand as life left his eyes. She'd promised herself. Never again, never feel that helpless again. But now another kid was dying. Another Danny. Another chance to fail. Or another chance to save. Where? She asked. We're 8 minutes out from your location. Rooftop access at Chicago Mercy Hospital. I know you were fired. Doesn't matter. We're coming in hot. I'll need... Your kit is in our bird. We grabbed it from your storage unit. Hope you don't mind. You broke into my storage unit? Admiral Blackwood has a key. Get the roof ready, Ghost. We're wheels down in 7 mics. The line cut. Evelyn stood in her apartment, boxes everywhere, television showing chaos, phone dead in her hand. For 3 seconds she didn't move. Then training took over. She stripped off her jeans and sweatshirt, pulled on cargo pants, black, reinforced knees, grabbed a gray moisture-wicking shirt, pulled her silver hair back tight. Not for style, for function. Hair in your face during a procedure could kill someone. She went to the closet, reached to the back, pulled out a black tactical vest. Lightweight. She'd worn it under her uniform in combat zones, kept her gear accessible, kept her alive. She put it on, checked the pockets. Tourniquet, hemostatic gauze, pressure bandages, nasopharyngeal airway, all still there, all maintained. She'd told herself she'd never wear it again. She grabbed her truck keys. 6 minutes to the hospital. She had to move. Evelyn's truck skidded into the hospital parking lot at 1426. The ER entrance was busy. Ambulances, visitors, staff change happening, normal chaos. She went through the main entrance, not the ER. Didn't want to be seen. The lobby was crowded. Families waiting. Children crying. The smell of antiseptic and anxiety. Evelyn moved toward the elevators. "Ma'am?" "A security guard." Not the young one from before. This was Miller, the one from the roof, the one she'd put in a hole during the confrontation. He recognized her. "Ms. Thorne, you're not supposed to be here." "I know," Evelyn said. She kept walking. "Ma'am, I need to—" He reached for his radio. She turned, looked at him. Not with the soft eyes of the cleaning lady, with the cold assessment of a woman who'd disarmed insurgents, who'd survived 12 deployments, who knew exactly how to end a threat in 3 seconds. "Miller," she said quietly, "in about 4 minutes, a Navy helicopter is going to land on this roof. You can either help me prepare the landing zone, or you can try to stop me. Your choice. But people are dying, and I'm the only one who can save them." Miller's hand hovered over his radio. "What kind of helicopter?" he asked. "The kind that doesn't exist on paper." He looked at her vest, at the tactical pockets, at the way she stood, balanced, ready. "You're not really a cleaning lady, are you?" "No." He pressed the elevator button. 8th floor. Roof access is through the stairwell on the north side. Door's locked, but the mechanism is old. You know what to do." The elevator opened. "Thank you, Miller." "Ma'am," he said as she stepped inside, "for what it's worth, I'm sorry about what happened." The doors closed. The 8th floor was administrative, quiet. Carpeted hallways, office doors, no patients, no chaos. Evelyn moved fast. Past the reception desk. The administrator was arguing with someone on the phone. Didn't look up. She found the north stairwell. Pushed through. The roof access door was at the top, heavy steel, keypad entry. The lock was electronic, but the mechanism was mechanical. Old building, outdated security. Evelyn examined the lock, saw the vulnerability, the connection between the electronic pad and the physical bolt. She took 3 steps back, set her stance, drove her heel into the connection point. Pain shot up her spine. The shrapnel near her vertebrae shifted. She gritted her teeth, ignored it. The mechanism cracked, separated from the door frame. She slammed her shoulder into the door. It crashed open. Cold air hit her face. Wind. The smell of rain coming. The roof was exactly as Miller had described. Helipad paint faded and cracked. Gravel loose everywhere. Old HVAC units, rusted equipment, debris scattered across the landing zone. It was a disaster. Evelyn checked her watch. 2 minutes. She grabbed a broken pallet. The wood was heavy, waterlogged. She dragged it to the edge. Her back screamed. She ignored it, threw it over the rail onto the lower roof section, grabbed another, dragged, threw. A rusted gurney, shoved it into the stairwell, kicked loose gravel to the edges. An old oxygen tank, rolled it away. The landing zone needed to be clear. Debris and rotor wash became projectiles. She'd seen a man killed by a piece of plywood during an extraction in Kandahar. 30 feet from the helicopter, rotor wash picked it up, hit him like a missile, broke his neck. 1 minute. She positioned herself in the center of the painted H, pulled out her phone, texted, "Viper, LZ clear, ready." The reply came instantly. 90 seconds. Evelyn stood alone on the roof, wind pulling at her clothes. Chicago's skyline spreading out below. The city that had rejected her, fired her, told her she wasn't good enough. She took a breath. This was a mistake. She knew it was a mistake. She'd retired. She'd walked away. She'd decided to stop trying to save everyone because you couldn't save everyone, because losing people hurt too much. But here she was, because a kid named Marcus Webb was dying. And she was the only one who could stop it. The sound started as a feeling, not a noise, a vibration, in the soles of her feet, rising up through her legs, into her chest, into her bones. Evelyn turned toward the south, nothing visible yet, but the sound grew, low thrumming, rhythmic, mechanical, primal, getting louder. On the street below, car alarms started going off. 1, then 3, then a cascade of them, panic spreading through metal and electronics. Windows in the hospital rattled. The vibration intensified. Evelyn felt it in her sternum now, her lungs, her heart matching the rhythm. Thwop, thwop, thwop. The sound of rotors cutting air, beating it into submission. Then she saw it. A shape rising over the buildings to the south, black against gray clouds. Massive, powerful, terrifying. Sikorsky UH-60. Black Hawk. Matte black paint. No markings, no identification numbers, no registration. The kind of helicopter that didn't exist on any official roster. The kind that operated in places the government would never acknowledge. It came fast. The sound became deafening, all-consuming. The city disappeared. There was only the helicopter, only the mission. Below, on the street 8 floors down, people stopped, looked up, pointed, pulled out phones, started recording. The hospital windows filled with faces, doctors, nurses, patients, all staring at the black machine descending on their building. The Black Hawk roared over the edge of the roof. The rotor wash hit like a physical force, like standing in a hurricane, like being hit by an invisible wall. Evelyn's hair whipped back despite being tied. Loose gravel pelted her legs, stung her arms. The air pressure changed. Her ears popped. The wind tried to push her backward. She didn't move. The helicopter didn't land. Couldn't. The roof wasn't rated for the weight. 10,000 pounds of metal and fuel and weapons. It held a low hover, wheels 18 inches off the concrete. The whole building seemed to shake. Windows rattled. Alarms went off inside. Evelyn raised her arms, crossed them in an X over her head. The signal was clear, universal. Hold position. The side door slid open. 6 men jumped out before the skids touched. They moved like water, like gravity, like violence barely contained. Full tactical gear, plate carriers loaded with ammunition, helmets, weapons slung across chests, faces hard, eyes harder. They ran in a tight formation beneath the spinning rotors, crouched, fast, efficient. 2 of them carried a third man between them, his arms draped over their shoulders, his head lolling, his face gray, his body limp. The 4th man out was massive, 6'4", 240 pounds, beard streaked with gray, scar running from his left temple to his jaw, eyes like flint. Lieutenant Commander Wade Callahan, Viper. He locked eyes with Evelyn across the chaos. Snapped to attention despite the rotor wash trying to knock him over. Rendered a sharp salute. "Chief Thorne," he shouted over the deafening noise. "Asset critical. VX2 exposure. Direct skin contact 9 minutes ago." Evelyn didn't salute back. Civilians didn't salute. Even retired ones, even ones who'd earned it. She grabbed the front of Viper's plate carrier, pulled him close, had to yell directly into his ear. "Did you decon him? Negative. Cut his gear in the bird, but no water. No time. Get him to the stairwell. Don't let him touch anything. Don't let anyone touch him. Full contamination protocol." She turned toward the roof access door and stopped, standing in the doorway, mouths open, eyes wide. Mr. Patterson, hospital administrator, face pale, sweating. tie askew. Dr. Donovan Ashford, perfectly coiffed even in crisis. White coat pristine, expression shifting between confusion and indignation. Sharon, the charge nurse, hand over her mouth, staring. Two more security guards, hands hovering near their radios, uncertain. They'd heard the helicopter, felt it through the entire building, come to investigate. Now they stood frozen as 6 heavily armed operators in full combat gear moved toward them like a force of nature. Evelyn marched straight through the chaos, directly to Dr. Ashford, grabbed him by the lapels of his white coat, hauled him close, close enough to see her reflection in his eyes. "Dr. Ashford," she said. The meekness was gone, burned away, incinerated by necessity. "I am commandeering Trauma Bay 1 and 2. You will clear them immediately. You will seal the ventilation. Positive pressure only. You will tell Sharon to prep 4 IV lines with atropine and 2 PAM chloride, and you will stay out of my way. Do you understand?" Ashford stared at her, at the operators behind her, at their weapons, at Viper, who stood with arms crossed, looking at Ashford like he was an obstacle to be removed. At the helicopter still hovering, rotors screaming, a $1 million war machine on a hospital roof. Yes, Ashford stammered. "Then move!" They hit the stairwell at a run. Evelyn led. Viper's team followed in tight formation. The unconscious operator, Marcus Webb, carried between 2 teammates. Down 8 flights, fast, controlled. Bootsteps echoing like gunfire in the concrete shaft. Evelyn's back screamed. The shrapnel shifted with every impact. She ignored it. Pain was just information. Information she didn't need right now. They burst through the ER entrance. The entire floor went silent. Patients mid-sentence stopped talking. A man having a heart attack forgot to clutch his chest. Nurses froze with medications in hand. A doctor dropped his clipboard. It clattered on the floor. No one picked it up. The sight was surreal. A woman in tactical gear, silver hair, eyes like winter, leading 6 Navy SEALs in full combat loadout through the emergency department. Weapons, body armor, blood on their uniforms. This wasn't a hospital. This was a war zone. Evelyn didn't slow down. "Trauma Bay 1, she shouted. Her voice carried. Command voice, the one that cut through explosions and gunfire. "Clear it, now! This is a contamination situation. Everyone out!" Sharon stood at the nurse's station, paralyzed, staring. "Sharon?" Evelyn's voice cracked like a whip. 4 IV lines. Atropine, pralidoxime chloride. Move! Training overrode shock. Sharon's legs moved before her brain caught up. Evelyn kicked open the door to Trauma Bay 1. It slammed against the wall. "Put him on the bed. Cut the rest of his clothes off. Everything goes into double hazmat bags. No one touches contaminated material with bare hands." The operators moved with practiced efficiency. They'd done this before. Different countries, different poisons, same protocols. They laid Marcus Webb on the trauma bed. Scissors appeared. They cut through his remaining gear. Undershirt, pants, socks, everything. Each piece went into a yellow hazmat bag. The bag went into a second bag, sealed, marked with red warning tape. Evelyn pulled on gloves, mask, face shield, full barrier protection. Moved to the bed. Marcus Webb was 24 years old, young face, strong jaw, short hair, dog tags around his neck, wedding ring on his left hand, new, still shiny. He was seizing. His entire body convulsed, muscles locked rigid, then released, then locked again. Autonomic nervous system destroying itself. His skin was pale, gray undertones, cyanotic at the extremities. His lips were blue, turning purple. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth, pink tinged. Blood in his saliva from biting his tongue. Classic nerve agent exposure. Textbook, fatal. Evelyn checked his pupils. Pinpoint, tiny as needle points, barely visible. Meiotic crisis. She checked his breathing. Shallow, rapid, ineffective. Respiratory muscles failing. "Viper," she called. "Hold his legs, keep him from falling off the bed. Got him?" Evelyn pointed to another operator. Ghost. Younger. Maybe 30. Hold his head. Stabilize the neck. I need airway access. Yes, ma'am? Sharon burst through the door, arms full of IV supplies, medications, syringes. Her hands were shaking, but she was here. She was functioning. Atropine, Evelyn ordered. 2 milligrams IV push. Now! Sharon fumbled with the vial. Hands shaking harder. She dropped it. It rolled across the floor. Evelyn's hand shot out, caught it before it hit the wall. Sharon, look at me. Her voice changed. Softer, steadier. You've done this 1,000 times. Muscle memory? You've got this. Sharon took a breath, nodded, loaded the syringe, pushed it into the IV line. Pralidoxime! Evelyn continued. 600 milligrams. Separate line. Sharon moved faster now, more confident, training taking over. Evelyn grabbed the laryngoscope. I'm going in for the airway. He's going to decompensate when I manipulate his jaw. Be ready. She tilted Marcus's head back. His jaw was clenched, teeth grinding, masseter muscles locked in spasm. She worked the laryngoscope blade between his teeth, risked her fingers getting bitten, visualized the vocal cords between seizures, reached for the endotracheal tube. Her hand trembled. For the first time in 30 years of practice during a critical procedure, her hand trembled. She stopped, closed her eyes, saw Danny. Kandahar. 2009. IED blast. His legs gone below the knees. Femoral arteries severed. Blood everywhere, pumping out with every heartbeat. His eyes looking at her, trusting, believing she could save him. She couldn't. Too much damage. Too much blood loss. Too far from help. She'd held his hand, told him lies, told him he'd be fine, told him he'd see his mom again, watched him die. Chief? Viper's voice. Quiet, steady, understanding. We got him. You got this. Just like Kandahar, just like Baghdad. You've done this 100 times. Evelyn opened her eyes. Marcus Webb was someone's husband, someone's father-to-be. His wife was 8 months pregnant, waiting at home, believing her husband would come back. Not today, not on her watch. Her hand steadied. She advanced the tube, through the cords, into the trachea, past the narrowing, into position. I'm in, she announced. Beg him. 15 breaths per minute. Sharon attached the bag valve mask, started squeezing. Oxygen flowing into dying lungs. The monitor showed heart rate, 190. Blood pressure, 50/30. Oxygen saturation, 52%. He was dying, right here, right now. Dr. Ashford burst through the door. What is going on? He demanded. You can't just commandeer my trauma bay. You were fired. This is VX2 nerve agent, Evelyn said flatly, not looking at him, hands moving, checking lines, adjusting flows. Organophosphate, inhibits acetylcholinesterase, causes cholinergic crisis, parasympathetic overload, muscle paralysis, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, death in 10 to 15 minutes without treatment. That's a chemical weapon, Ashford said. His voice changed. Fear replaced indignation. Yes, we need to evacuate. We need to call hazmat. We need to save him. Evelyn looked at Viper, the experimental protocol. You have it? Viper moved to the wall, set down a Pelican case, opened it with a hiss of releasing pressure seals. Inside, 3 vials, clear liquid, unmarked, except for a single red stripe around each cap. Military designation. Experimental, not approved for civilian use. Dr. Ashford stepped forward, saw the vials. What is that? Experimental antidote? Evelyn said. She drew medication into a syringe. 20 milliliters, precise. Enhanced oxime-based binding agent, crosses the blood-brain barrier more efficiently, developed by DARPA. Tested on primates, used successfully in 4 field applications, not FDA approved. You can't use unapproved medications. If he dies, you'll be charged with murder. I'll call the police right now. Evelyn loaded the full syringe, held it up to the light, checked for air bubbles, flicked it, pushed the plunger slightly. Perfect. She looked at Dr. Ashford. Doctor, if I don't use this, Marcus Webb dies in approximately 90 seconds. If I do use it, he has a 70% chance of survival. I'll take those odds. I'm calling security. Viper turned to face him. didn't raise his voice, didn't raise his weapon, didn't move toward him. Just looked at Dr. Ashford with eyes that had seen things in Fallujah and Kandahar and Mogadishu, eyes that had watched friends die, eyes that had taken lives to save lives. "Doctor," Viper said quietly, "if she says stand down, you stand down. Are we clear?" Ashford backed against the wall, bumped into a supply cart. Supplies rattled. Evelyn positioned the syringe over Marcus Webb's IV port. "Sharon," she said. "Timer. 90 seconds. Start now." Sharon fumbled with her phone, found the timer app. "Starting. Now. 90 seconds." Evelyn pushed the plunger. The clear liquid disappeared into Marcus's bloodstream. The room held its breath. Everyone, even the hardened SEALs, even Viper, even Dr. Ashford pressed against the wall. 80 seconds, Sharon called out. Her voice shook. The seizures continued. Marcus's body arched off the bed. Viper and Ghost held him down. His hands curled into claws. Tendons standing out on his neck. 70 seconds. The monitor beeped frantically. Heart rate climbing. 200. 210. 220. 60 seconds. His oxygen saturation dropped. 50. 48. 45. Blood turning acidic. Organs failing. 50 seconds. The seizures intensified, worse than before, his whole body rigid. Opisthotonos, back arched, head thrown back, teeth clenched so hard, something cracked. Enamel breaking under pressure. 40 seconds. His pressure's dropping, Sharon said. 30 over nothing. I can barely get a reading. 30 seconds. Then everything stopped. The seizures, the movement, the breathing, everything. The monitor flatlined. One long, continuous tone. "He's coding!" Sharon yelled. "Asystole. We need to start compressions." "No," Evelyn said. "Calm." Fingers on Marcus's carotid artery, feeling for something. "He's resetting. Don't touch him. Chief, he's flatlined." Viper started. The medication forces a complete parasympathetic shutdown, reboots the nervous system. It looks like death. But watch. 5 seconds. Nothing. The flatline continued. 10 seconds. Viper's jaw clenched. His hands became fists. 15 seconds. Sharon's eyes filled with tears. 20 seconds. "Chief," Viper said. His voice broke. "He's gone. 25 seconds. Then, beep. A single heartbeat on the monitor. Slow, strong, steady. Beep. Another. Beep, beep, beep. Sinus rhythm. Normal pattern. Perfect electrical activity. The oxygen saturation climbed. 60, 70, 80, 90, 96, 98%. Blood pressure stabilizing. 70 over 40, 90 over 60, 100 over 65. 110 over 70. Color returned to Marcus's face. Gray to pink. Lips from blue to normal. Marcus Webb's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, confused, scared. He tried to speak around the breathing tube, couldn't, reached up. Evelyn caught his hand, gentle, firm. "Easy, Marcus," she said softly. "You're okay. You took a hit of VX2. We've got you. You're at Chicago Mercy Hospital. You're going to be fine. Your wife is fine. Your baby girl is fine. Everything is fine." His eyes found her face. Recognition flickered. Confusion cleared. He tried to say something. Evelyn read his lips. "Chief?" She smiled. A real smile. Genuine. The first one in years. "Yeah, sailor. It's Ghost. Welcome back." His eyes closed. Not death. Not unconsciousness. Sleep. Natural. Healing. His grip on her hand relaxed. Evelyn exhaled, long and shaky. Her knees felt weak, adrenaline draining, the crash coming. Viper slumped against the wall, put his head back, closed his eyes. "Jesus Christ, Ghost, that was too close." "Too close is still alive," Evelyn said. She pulled off her gloves, dropped them in the hazmat bin, turned around. The trauma bay doors were glass. Through them, she could see the entire ER staff crowded in the hallway. Nurses, doctors, orderlies, patients who could walk, security guards, even some visitors, all of them staring. Not at the SEALs, not at the weapons, not at the helicopter still visible through the windows, at her. At Evelyn Thorne, the cleaning lady, the woman they'd ignored, the woman they'd mocked, the woman they'd fired. Sharon stood frozen inside the bay, mouth open, face pale. The trauma shears in her pocket suddenly feeling very heavy. Dr. Ashford pressed against the wall, face white, hands trembling. Mr. Patterson in the back of the crowd, looking like he might vomit. Evelyn stripped off her face shield, her mask, dropped them in the hazmat bin. Dr. Ashford found his voice. Who are you, really? Before Evelyn could answer, Viper stepped forward, all 6'4" of him, 240 pounds of muscle and scar tissue and combat experience, ribbons on his chest, trident on his uniform, weapons still slung. He looked at Dr. Ashford, then at the crowd. His voice rang out, clear, loud, carrying authority that made colonels straighten their spines. You're looking at Chief Medical Officer Evelyn Thorne, United States Navy, 28 years of service. 14 combat deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria. Places we can't name, Navy Cross recipient, the only woman to complete SARC Advanced Combat Medicine training and serve with Naval Special Warfare Development Group. He paused, let it sink in, looked at Dr. Ashford directly. She's not a cleaning lady, doctor. She's the best combat medic the Navy ever produced. She's saved more lives in war zones than your entire staff has saved in this hospital. And if you people had any idea who was mopping your floors, you'd salute every time she walked past. The silence was absolute. You could hear the monitors beeping, the HVAC humming, someone's phone buzzing in their pocket. Sharon's face went red, shame and shock and realization mixing together. Mr. Patterson couldn't meet Evelyn's eyes. Tom, the male nurse, had tears running down his face. Melissa looked at the floor. Dr. Ashford's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. Evelyn's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Text message. Admiral Blackwood. Ghost. North Sea situation. Shadow vessel Dauntless taking water. 7 DevGru operators trapped in diving bell, 400 feet. CO2 scrubbers failing. Need hyperbaric trauma specialist. Need you. ETA to airport 15 minutes. Wheels up in 30. How copy? Evelyn stared at the message. Read it again. Looked at Marcus Webb sleeping peacefully on the trauma bed. Alive. Breathing. Going home to his wife and unborn daughter. Looked at Viper. Another one? She asked quietly. Always another one, Chief, Viper said. That's the job. That's why we do this. Evelyn thought about her apartment, about the boxes, about Montana, about silence and safety, and never losing anyone again. She thought about Marcus Webb's wife, 8 months pregnant, who would have been a widow today if Evelyn had stayed in Montana. She thought about 7 operators trapped 400 feet underwater, running out of air, running out of time, waiting for someone who could save them. There was only one person who could. Evelyn looked at Admiral Blackwood's message, typed, "How long do they have?" The reply came instantly. 90 minutes, maybe less. 1 critical, spinal injury plus collapsed lung, can't surface without surgery. You're the only one certified for hyperbaric trauma. Where's the bird? Roof. Still there? Pilots waiting. Evelyn put the phone in her pocket, looked at Viper. Let's move. They turned toward the exit. The crowd parted, like water around stone. Dr. Ashford stepped forward, voice shaking. You can't just leave. There are protocols, procedures. I haven't signed off on the treatment. This patient needs... Evelyn stopped, pulled something from her pocket, the hospital ID badge, the one they'd taken when they fired her. Evelyn Thorne, night shift, support staff. She looked at it, then at Dr. Ashford, walked up to him, slow, deliberate, each step echoing, dropped the badge into the pocket of his white coat. Dr. Ashford, she said quietly. Everyone in the hallway leaned in to hear. For 48 hours, I've thought about what I wanted to say to you. I've thought about telling you how wrong you were, how your ego almost killed that kid with the femoral bleed. How many patients have probably died because you were too proud to listen." She stepped closer. "But I realized something. You're not going to change. Men like you never do. You'll keep believing that credentials matter more than competence, that titles matter more than experience, that looking good matters more than being good." She glanced at the crowd. "I'm done explaining myself to people who think mopping floors makes someone less valuable. I'm done working for institutions that value appearance over ability. I have a real job to do now, one that actually saves lives." She turned to Viper. "Move out." The SEAL team formed up, diamond pattern. Evelyn in the center, protected, valued. They walked toward the exit, through the ER, through the lobby, out the main entrance. The Blackhawk was still on the roof, rotors at idle, ready to spin up. Behind them, pressed against the glass doors, the entire hospital watched. Sharon stood there, hand in her pocket, feeling the trauma shears, the engraving, E. Thorne, CMO, USN. She finally understood. Mr. Patterson looked terrified. Dr. Donovan Ashford stood alone in the center of the ER, holding a hospital badge that belonged to someone he'd never really known. The woman who'd mopped his floors was gone. The legend had returned. And somewhere in the North Sea, 7 men were running out of time. But help was coming. Ghost was coming. And she had never failed a mission yet. The North Sea was a nightmare made of water and wind and darkness. Evelyn stood in the open door of the Blackhawk as it thundered east over the Atlantic. Wind tore at her clothes, tried to pull her from the aircraft. The ocean below was black and white. 30-foot swells, storm surge building from the Arctic, waves that could swallow ships. Somewhere down there, 7 men were dying. The helicopter vibrated with power. Military transport, built for war. The crew chief handed her a headset. She pulled it on. "Ghost, this is Blackwood." The admiral's voice was tight, controlled, professional, but she could hear the fear underneath, the desperation. "We have a critical situation." "I'm listening, sir." Shadow vessel Dauntless took a rogue wave during an extraction operation. "Hull breach. She's going down. Current list is 28 degrees. We have 7 DevGru operators in a DSV, a diving support vessel. It's a pressurized bell tethered to the Dauntless support structure. They're at 412 feet. The tether cable is compromised. Steel fatigue. Fraying. If it snaps, they drop. Crushed instantly by pressure. Evelyn closed her eyes, visualized it. A diving bell, pressurized chamber, spherical, maybe 8 feet in diameter, designed to keep divers alive at depth during decompression stops. Tethered to the surface by cable and air supply. If the connection failed, it became a coffin. "Injuries?" she asked. "One critical. Lieutenant Preston Ashford." Evelyn's eyebrows rose at the name, but Blackwood continued. "No relation to that doctor in Chicago, different family entirely. He's Senator Ashford of Connecticut's nephew. 26 years old. Took a fall when the wave hit. Collapsed lung. Possible spinal fracture at T7. We can't pull them up. Standard decompression from that depth takes 18 hours. We don't have 18 hours. The Bell's CO2 scrubbers are failing, and if we emergency surface them, decompression sickness will kill them before they reach the deck. 412 feet, 13 atmospheres of pressure. Over 190 pounds per square inch. Your lungs compressed to nothing. Nitrogen saturating your tissues. Narcosis making you drunk. Stupid. Dead. Operating under those conditions wasn't difficult. It was impossible. "How many people are certified for hyperbaric trauma surgery?" Evelyn asked. 3 in the world. Dr. Sarah Chen is in Okinawa on a different operation. Dr. James Rodriguez is in Bethesda, 12 hours away. You're number 3, and you're 23 minutes out. What's the timeline? C. O2 levels are rising. They have maybe 90 minutes of breathable air. The cable could snap any second. The Dauntless is going down. We're evacuating the ship, but we can't extract the bell without you stabilizing Preston first. Evelyn looked at her watch. Wednesday, 4:47 p.m. 72 hours ago, she'd been fired from a hospital for saving a life. Now she was flying into a storm to dive 400 feet and perform surgery in a pressurized tin can while a ship sank and a cable frayed and 7 men suffocated. "I need gear," she said. "Already on the Dauntless. Your old kit. Deep dive rated. We maintained it, just in case." "Of course you did, sir." Blackwood's voice softened. "Ghost, I wouldn't ask if there was any other option, but Preston has a wife, a daughter who just turned 2, his whole life ahead of him. These men, they're counting on you." Evelyn was quiet. "I know, sir. I'm in. Thank you, Evelyn." "And Ghost, sir?" "Don't die down there. That's an order." She smiled grimly. "I'll do my best, sir." The Dauntless wasn't a ship anymore. It was a disaster. 230 feet of reinforced steel, listing 32 degrees to port when the Black Hawk landed on the aft deck. The helicopter touched down at a severe angle. Evelyn jumped out before the skids fully settled, sailors scattered everywhere. Securing loose equipment, fighting the list. Water crashed over the rails with every swell. The deck was a skating rink. A man ran toward her. Navy officer, Lieutenant's bars, soaked to the bone, face grim. "Chief Thorne," he shouted over the wind and the waves and the groaning metal. "That's me, Lieutenant Graves. Operations officer, your dive gear is below. The bell is still tethered, but the cable is at 48% integrity. We're estimating 12 minutes before catastrophic failure. Maybe 15 if we're lucky. Show me everything." They ran across the tilted deck. Evelyn had to grab railings. The ship lurched with every wave. Down a hatch, into the belly of the dying vessel. The corridor was chaos. Emergency lighting flickering, water ankle-deep, cold. Alarms blaring, the ship groaning like a dying animal. Graves led her to an equipment staging area. On the table, her old dry suit, black neoprene. Custom fit. She'd worn it in operations from the Arctic Circle to the Persian Gulf, covered in patches, repairs, salt stains, history. Beside it, weight belt, dive computer, rebreather system, underwater headlamp rated for depth, emergency beacon, and her medical kit. Waterproof, pressurized, triple sealed, containing instruments designed to work at depth, scalpels that wouldn't corrode, syringes that wouldn't implode, medications in pressure-resistant vials. Evelyn started stripping immediately, pulled off her tactical vest, her shirt, down to compression shorts and sports bra. Graves had the professionalism to turn around, focus on equipment checks. She pulled on the dry suit. The rubber seal was cold and tight around her neck and wrists. She checked every seal, every zipper, the emergency release, the buoyancy compensator. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Maintained, ready. "Where's the bell?" she asked. 412 feet. "Directly below us. We've got it stabilized with a secondary line, but the primary cable is the load-bearing structure. When that goes, the secondary won't hold." Evelyn pulled on the rebreather harness, checked the mixture, Heliox for depth, helium-oxygen blend, prevented nitrogen narcosis, water temperature 36 degrees Fahrenheit, visibility maybe 5 feet, current running 4 knots, storm surge pushing us off position. Perfect. She wasn't being sarcastic. Bad conditions meant fewer variables. You couldn't rely on sight. You relied on training, on instinct, on the absolute certainty that you'd done this before and you'd do it again. Evelyn strapped the dive computer to her wrist, clipped the medical kit to her harness, pulled on fins, checked her regulator, air flowing clean, helium-oxygen mixture. She took a test breath. The helium made her voice high-pitched. Mickey Mouse effect. She'd gotten used to it years ago. "How are you feeling, Chief?" Graves asked. Evelyn looked at him. She was 56 years old. Her back hurt. Her hands shook. She'd been fired from a hospital 2 days ago. Now she was about to dive 400 feet into a storm to perform surgery in conditions that would kill most people. "Ready," she said. They rigged her on the aft deck, the umbilical line connected to her harness. Safety tether Communications line, emergency retrieval cable. Retrieval. If something went wrong, they could pull her up. Fast. Maybe fast enough. The storm had intensified. Rain came horizontal. Wind gusted to 50 knots. Waves crashed over the rail. The deck was a war zone of water and wind. Evelyn stood at the rail, looked down. The ocean churned. Black water. White foam. Hungry. Waiting. Viper appeared beside her. He'd stayed with the aircraft, but now he was here, checking her gear with experienced hands. "Ghost," he said, "you don't have to do this. We can wait for Dr. Chen from Okinawa. Preston will be dead in 90 minutes. Better one dead than you dead trying. That's not how I operate, Viper. You know that." "I know." He checked her harness connections. "Preston's a good kid. Joined the teams because he wanted to serve, not because of his uncle, the senator. Wife's name is Emily. Daughter is Claire. 2 years old. Loves dinosaurs. Her favorite is the Triceratops." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because when you're down there and the narcosis hits and the cold makes you want to quit, you need to remember. You're not saving a name. You're saving Claire's daddy." Evelyn nodded. Viper pulled something from his pocket. A photo, protected in waterproof laminate. A little girl. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Holding a stuffed Triceratops, smiling. "Take this, keep it in your kit." Evelyn took the photo, slipped it into her medical kit, sealed it. "Timer starts when I enter the water," she said. "If I'm not topside in 45 minutes, pull the umbilical. Emergency ascent, whether I'm ready or not." "Chief, that's an order, Viper." He nodded, stepped back. Evelyn climbed over the rail, stood on the edge. The Dauntless tilted, lurched. A wave crashed. She held on. 412 feet below, 7 men were counting on her. 7 men who probably thought they were going to die. They were wrong. "Green light," Graves said through her headset. "Go." Evelyn stepped off the deck, fell 30 feet, hit the water like hitting concrete. The cold was instant, total, shocking. It tried to steal her breath even through the dry suit, tried to stop her heart. The North Sea was 1 degree from freezing. Hypothermia started immediately. She fought the waves. The current tried to pull her. She kicked toward the descent line. Found the bright orange buoy marker. Grabbed the line. Started down. The world disappeared. The surface chaos, the storm, the wind, the dying ship. All of it faded. Replaced by the deep, the pressure, the silence. The absolute darkness broken only by her headlamp beam. She descended at a controlled rate, 30 feet per minute, watching her dive computer, managing her gas mixture, equalizing pressure in her ears and sinuses. At 100 feet, the cold penetrated the suit, reached her skin. Her fingers started going numb even in the gloves. At 200 feet, the pressure built everywhere. Her ears, her sinuses, her chest, her joints, everything compressed. The suit squeezed tighter. At 300 feet, the narcosis started. The underwater drunk, the false euphoria, the feeling that everything was fine and she should just keep swimming down forever into the dark. She shook her head, focused, counted her breaths, remembered her training. At 380 feet, her headlamp caught something, metal, cylindrical, tilted at 45 degrees, swinging in the current. The diving bell. It was smaller than she remembered, 8 feet in diameter, spherical. Painted yellow originally, but the paint was scarred and scratched and peeling. It hung from a single steel cable. The cable was frayed. She could see individual strands broken, unraveling. Maybe 30% of the original thickness remained. Minutes, maybe seconds. Evelyn kicked toward the airlock, grabbed the wheel. It was supposed to turn. Opened the outer door. It didn't move. Seized. Corroded. Salt water and pressure had locked it solid. "Viper, this is Ghost," she said into her mic. The helium made her voice squeaky. "Airlock is stuck. Going to percussive maintenance. Copy that, Ghost. Be advised, cable integrity now at 41%. Evelyn pulled a specialized wrench from her toolkit. Heavy, designed for underwater use. She braced her fins against the hull of the Bell. set her body position, generated leverage, swung. The impact traveled up her arms, into her shoulders, into her spine. The shrapnel near her vertebrae screamed. She ignored it. The wheel didn't move. She swung again, harder, using her whole body. Again. On the fifth hit, something gave. A grinding sound transmitted through the water and the metal. The wheel turned 3 inches. She dropped the wrench, let it fall into the dark. Grabbed the wheel with both hands, put her back into it, pulled. It turned. Slowly, grudgingly. But it turned. The airlock opened. She pulled herself inside the cramped chamber, sealed the outer door behind her, hit the pressurization valve. Water drained out through deck grates. Air hissed in. The pressure built and built until it equalized with the Belle's interior. 13 atmospheres, 190 pounds per square inch. Breathing was like sucking through a straw. The air was thick, heavy, like liquid. She opened the inner hatch, crawled through, and entered hell. The smell hit her first. Sweat, fear, carbon dioxide. The air was thick, stale, gray. Breathing, it felt like drowning, like trying to breathe underwater. 7 men packed into a space designed for 4, all of them in dry suits, all of them staring at her with desperate, relieved eyes. "Ghost?" one of them said. "Young? Maybe 25. Holy shit, they actually sent you." "Where's Preston?" Evelyn asked. Her voice was still Mickey Mouse high. "The helium." They pointed to the back of the cramped sphere. Preston Ashford, no relation to Dr. Donovan Ashford, she reminded herself, lay on a makeshift litter, strapped down. His face was gray, lips blue tinged, breathing rapid and shallow. 26 breaths per minute, tachypneic. His eyes were closed, semi-conscious. Another operator knelt beside him, older, bearded, competent-looking. His name tape read, Hayes. "Chief," Hayes said, "I'm the team medic. His left lung collapsed about 40 minutes ago. Tension pneumothorax. I can't decompress it. The pressure differential down here is too unstable. If I puncture the pleural space wrong at this depth, the pressure could blow back into his heart. Kill him instantly." "Spinal injury?" Evelyn asked. She moved to Preston's side, her medical kit already open. "Yeah, took a fall when the rogue wave hit. Smashed into the equipment rack. Can't feel anything below his waist. No motor, no sensation. I'm thinking T7 or T8 fracture." Evelyn knelt beside Preston, stripped off her gloves. Her hands were shaking from the cold and the narcosis and the depth. She pressed her fingers to his neck. Carotid pulse. Weak, thready, racing, 130 beats per minute. Checked his pupils. Reactive but sluggish. Good sign. Checked his chest. The left side didn't move. No breath sounds on auscultation, even through the dry suit. The right side had diminished sounds. His trachea was deviated to the right. Classic sign. Air pressure building in the left chest cavity, pushing everything aside, crushing his heart and his functional lung. Minutes, maybe less. "Chief," Hayes said, quietly. "The cable." Evelyn heard it too. The sound transmitted through the hull, through the water, through the metal, groaning, creaking. The sound of steel under impossible strain. The Belle swayed, tilted, corrected. The cable was failing. "How long?" she asked. "Graves says maybe 5 minutes, could be less, could be 30 seconds. When it goes, we drop 700 feet. Instant death, crushed by pressure." Evelyn looked at Preston Ashford, 26 years old, wedding ring on his left hand, dog tags, Ashford, Preston, JOPOS, Methodist. She thought about the photo Viper had given her, Claire, 2 years old, holding a stuffed triceratops, smiling, waiting for her daddy to come home. "Not today," Evelyn whispered. She opened her medical kit, pulled out a specialized trocar, large bore needle, 14 gauge, one-way valve, designed for exactly this situation. Tension pneumothorax at depth. Hayes, stabilize his head. Keep the C-spine immobilized. She pointed to another operator, young, scared. Hold his legs. Everyone else brace positions. When this cable snaps, it's going to be violent, chaotic. Don't let go of your handholds. She palpated Preston's chest, found the landmarks, second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, left side, the spot where the air pressure was highest. "Preston," she said. Her voice was still squeaky from the helium. "Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, gray, dying. "This is going to hurt," she said, "but it'll save your life. Do you understand?" He tried to nod, couldn't move his neck. Hayes was holding it. The bell lurched hard. Everyone grabbed something. Equipment shifted. The angle steepened. "Chief, we're out of time," Hayes said. His voice was tight. Evelyn positioned the trocar, found her landmark, set the angle. 30 degrees, aiming for the pleural space. "On my count," she said. 3. The bell tilted, swung hard to starboard. She rode the movement, kept the trocar positioned. 2. The cable groaned louder. A metallic screech, the sound of steel fibers snapping one by one. 1. She drove it in, through skin, through subcutaneous fat, through intercostal muscle, between the second and third ribs, into the pleural space. There was a hiss, high-pitched, violent, escaping air under pressure. Blood spurted. Arterial spray splattered her face mask, her hands, the wall of the bell, but the pressure released. Preston's chest expanded. He gasped. A real breath. Deep, full, desperate. His color changed instantly. Gray to pink, lips from blue to normal. "Lung is reinflating," Evelyn announced. She secured the trocar, taped it down, made sure the one-way valve was functioning properly. "Air out, none in." "Spine is still unstable," she said. "We need to immobilize before we surface." "Hayes, pass me the backboard." Hayes pulled a rigid spinal board from the emergency supplies. Lightweight, pressure-rated. They'd planned for this. "We move him together." Hayes controls the head. "You two," she pointed to operators, "take the torso. You two take the legs. On 3, maintain spinal alignment. If his spine shifts and we sever the cord completely, he's paralyzed for life. Understand?" Everyone nodded. 1, 2, 3. They moved as one, smooth, controlled. Preston slid onto the board. Hayes never let his head move even a millimeter. Preston was strapped down, secured, immobilized, stable. The cable groaned again, louder, more insistent. A sharp crack echoed through the bell. "It's going," someone yelled. Evelyn grabbed Preston, threw herself over him, used her body as a shield, protected his chest tube, his spine. "Blow the emergency ballast," she shouted into her mic. "Surface ascent, blow it now!" "Blow." "Chief, the decompression protocol," Graves's voice panicked. "Blow it, or we're all dead." There was a massive clang, the sound of metal tearing, steel parting. The tether snapped. For half a second, maybe less, they were weightless, floating, the bell falling free through the water. Then the emergency system engaged. Compressed air flooded the ballast tanks mounted on the bell's exterior. Thousands of pounds of positive buoyancy. The bell became a balloon. They shot upward, like a cork from champagne, like a rocket, like nothing Evelyn had ever experienced. Inside the bell, equipment flew, bodies pressed against the floor by G-forces. The acceleration was crushing, brutal. Evelyn held Preston, kept him pinned to the board, protected his chest, his spine. Her ears screamed. The pressure change was instantaneous, violent, from 13 atmospheres to 1 in seconds instead of hours. Nitrogen coming out of solution in her tissues, forming bubbles. The bends. Decompression sickness. Could kill. Could cripple. Didn't matter. They'd be alive to treat it. 30 seconds to surface, Hayes shouted. "Everyone brace. This is going to hurt." The bell accelerated. Faster. Faster. The external pressure dropped. The internal pressure remained high. The differential tried to tear the bell apart. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5. The bell breached. They launched 15 feet into the air, completely airborne. A 6-ton sphere of metal and men flying above the ocean surface, hung suspended for an eternal moment, then crashed back down into the waves. The impact was devastating, like hitting concrete at 60 miles per hour. Everything went black. Evelyn opened her eyes. Pain. Everywhere. Her back, her head, her chest. She was floating. No, sinking. Water. Cold. Dark. The bell. It had broken apart. The hatch was open. Water pouring in, flooding. She saw Preston. Still strapped to the backboard. The board was sinking. The weights pulling him down. No, not today. Not ever. Evelyn kicked, grabbed his harness, found the emergency release on the weights, popped them. They started rising. Slowly. Too slowly. The board was heavy even without weights. Her lungs burned. She'd lost her rebreather in the impact. Running on held breath. Maybe 30 seconds left. She kicked harder. Pulled Preston with her. Fought the water, the cold, the pain. The surface was a lighter shade of black. 30 feet. 20. 15. Her vision tunneled. Gray edges creeping in. Hypoxia. Oxygen deprivation. 10 feet. 5 feet. Blackness closing in. 3 feet. She wasn't going to make it. 2 feet. Her kicks weakened. 1 foot. Then hands grabbed her, pulled Preston. Multiple hands, strong, urgent. They broke the surface together. Evelyn gasped, coughed, choked on seawater, vomited. Air had never tasted so sweet, so precious. "We got her," Viper's voice. "We got them both." She was hauled onto a rescue boat. Preston was pulled up beside her. Both of them laid on the deck. Evelyn rolled onto her side, coughed up more seawater. Her lungs felt like broken glass. Every breath was agony. "Chief?" Viper's face appeared above her, concerned, relieved. "You okay?" She gave a thumbs up. Couldn't speak yet, throat raw, lungs burning. "Preston?" A medic was already working on him, checking vitals, adjusting the chest tube. "Administering oxygen. He's stable," the medic called. "Oxygen set 94% and climbing. Heart rate strong, neuro intact. He's going to make it." Evelyn closed her eyes, let her head fall back against the deck. 7 men, all accounted for, all rescued from the bell, all alive. Not today, Death. Not fucking today. She allowed herself a smile, then passed out from exhaustion. Friday evening, 6 o'clock. 72 hours since the termination. Chicago Mercy Hospital was busy. Friday rush, ambulances, visitors, the usual chaos of a major urban ER on a weekend evening. In Trauma Bay 2, Dr. Donovan Ashford stood before a camera crew. Local news, Channel 7. They were doing a segment on Chicago's best trauma surgeons, public relations. Good for the hospital, good for his profile. He'd carefully positioned himself in front of the monitors, professional, heroic, backlit perfectly. The lights made his hair glow, his teeth gleamed. The gunshot patient earlier this week was a particularly challenging case, he told the reporter with practiced humility. Multiple injuries, complex presentation. But my training at Yale Medical School prepared me for exactly these high-pressure situations. Quick thinking, decisive action, confidence under fire. That's what separates good surgeons from great ones. The reporter nodded, sympathetic. "Doctor, we've actually received some information about that case this morning. Some questions about exactly what happened. About who actually—" "Questions?" Ashford smiled. Perfect teeth, practiced charm. "I'm happy to address any questions about my clinical decisions. Transparency is important in medicine." "Well, we received a tip that the ER entrance doors slammed open. Not the ambulance bay. The main entrance, the public doors. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Metal on metal, violent. Everyone turned. 4 men in dark suits walked in. Earpieces. Sunglasses, federal agents, Secret Service posture. Weapons concealed but present. Behind them, 2 Navy officers in dress whites, ribbons stacked on their chests. gold shoulder boards, stars, flag officers. Behind them, Senator Robert Ashford of Connecticut. Silver hair, expensive suit, power emanating from every pore. The kind of man who appeared on Sunday morning news shows and made policy decisions that affected millions. And in the center of the formation, walking with purpose and dignity, Evelyn Thorne. Not in scrubs, not in cargo pants, not in tactical gear, in full Navy dress uniform, white jacket, gold buttons gleaming, ribbons stacked in perfect rows, Navy Cross at the top, silver star, bronze star with V device for valor, purple heart with 3 oak leaf clusters, combat action ribbon, presidential unit citation. Her silver hair was pulled back in regulation perfection. Her shoes shined like mirrors. Her posture was military perfect. She walked without the limp, without the hunch, without the mask. The warrior walked as a warrior. The camera crew swung their equipment around immediately. This was better than a puff piece about a hospital surgeon. This was news. This was drama. This was gold. Dr. Ashford's face went pale. His practiced smile faltered. What is this? The lead Navy officer stepped forward, 4 stars on each shoulder. Admiral Garrett Blackwood, a man who commanded fleets and made admirals nervous. Dr. Donovan Ashford, Blackwood said. His voice carried, deep, authoritative. Everyone in the ER heard every word. You're on live television. Perfect timing. Admiral, I don't understand what... You fired this woman. Blackwood gestured to Evelyn. His voice was ice. Chief Medical Officer Evelyn Thorne, United States Navy, 28 years of service, 14 combat deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Somalia. Navy Cross recipient for saving 17 Marines under fire in Kandahar. Silver Star for combat medical operations in Fallujah. The only woman to ever complete SARC Advanced Combat Medicine training. One of 3 people in the world certified for hyperbaric trauma surgery. Served with Naval Special Warfare Development Group for 12 years. The camera zoomed in on Evelyn. She stood at attention, face neutral, eyes forward. Perfect military bearing. She was a cleaning lady, Ashford stammered. His prepared talking points crumbled. She had no credentials here. She endangered a patient. She saved a patient's life, Blackwood interrupted. Cold, factual, devastating. He pulled out a tablet. This is security footage from Tuesday night. Unedited, time-stamped. He held the tablet up to the camera, made sure it was visible to everyone. The footage played. Crystal clear. Undeniable. The gunshot patient. Blood everywhere. Ashford focusing on the chest, preparing to crack it open with a scalpel. Evelyn moving, ripping the jeans, the blood geyser erupting, her hand clamping the femoral artery, holding it, saving the life. The patient stabilizing. You were about to perform a thoracotomy, crack the chest, on a patient with hypovolemic shock from a femoral artery bleed, Blackwood said, each word precise. Clinical, damning. If you had continued with your procedure, he would have died within 90 seconds from the pressure differential. Chief Thorne identified the actual injury, intervened, saved his life. And you fired her for it. The reporter's microphone was trembling. Her eyes were wide. Dr. Ashford, is this true? Did you misdiagnose the patient? Ashford's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. His face went from pale to red. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Senator Robert Ashford of Connecticut stepped forward. His presence filled the room. Dr. Ashford, the senator said. His voice was measured, controlled, but cold as death. 48 hours ago, Chief Thorne dove 412 feet into the North Sea during a Category 3 storm. She entered a failing diving bell at depth, performed emergency surgery under 13 atmospheres of pressure, saved 7 Naval Special Warfare operators, including my nephew, Lieutenant Preston Ashford. He paused. Let every word land. my sister's son, my family. A young man with a wife and a 2-year-old daughter who would have died if not for Chief Thorne's skill, courage, and dedication. He looked at Ashford with undisguised contempt. This woman, this hero, this Navy Cross recipient. You fired her. The hospital administrator, Mr. Patterson, appeared from his office, face white as paper, hands shaking. Senator, we had no idea. If we'd known her background, her qualifications. You should have known, Blackwood cut in, voice like thunder. Her file was in your system, her credentials, her security clearance, her service record. You hired a Navy chief medical officer with combat trauma experience and put her on night shift mopping floors because she didn't kiss the right asses, because she didn't play politics. He turned to face the gathered crowd. Nurses, doctors, staff, patients, all watching, all listening. This hospital owes Chief Thorne an apology, and a debt that can never be repaid. Mr. Patterson approached Evelyn, shaking, sweating despite the cold. Chief Thorne, we made a terrible mistake, a grievous error in judgment. I would like to offer you immediate reinstatement, full senior attending position, department head if you want it, whatever you... No, Evelyn said, her first word since entering. Clear? Final. Everyone stopped. The silence was total. No? Patterson repeated, confused. I don't want my old job back, Evelyn said. Her voice was quiet, measured, but it carried. I don't want to work under people who value credentials over competence, who ignore experience because it doesn't fit their image, who allow bullying and abuse because the abuser brings in research grants. She looked directly at Dr. Ashford. You fired me because I made you look bad, Doctor. Not because I was wrong. Not because I endangered anyone. Because your ego couldn't handle being corrected by someone you considered beneath you. Someone who mopped floors. Ashford couldn't meet her eyes. He looked at the floor, at the walls, anywhere but at her. The reporter's camera captured everything, every word, every expression, every moment of his humiliation. This was going viral before the evening news even finished airing. Senator Ashford spoke directly to Patterson, the board of directors. I want an emergency meeting. Tonight. Now. Sir, it's Friday evening. The board members, I don't care if it's Christmas morning. My office will ensure they understand the gravity of this situation. Tonight, 1 hour. Is that clear? Patterson nodded weakly. Yes, Senator. I'll make the calls. 90 minutes later. The hospital conference room was full. Board members pulled from dinner parties and family time. Senior staff, legal counsel, hospital lawyers in expensive suits. The atmosphere was funeral serious, grim. Senator Ashford sat at the head of the table, position of power. Admiral Blackwood beside him. Both men radiated authority. Evelyn stood by the window, still in uniform, watching the city lights, waiting. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses. The board has reviewed the evidence presented, the security footage, Chief Thorne's credentials and service record, the circumstances of her termination, the media coverage. He looked at legal counsel, got a nod. Doctor? Donovan Ashford is terminated immediately for cause, gross negligence, falsification of statements, abuse of authority, filing fraudulent complaints, creating a hostile work environment. Ashford sat in the corner, head down, his lawyer beside him scribbling notes, planning the inevitable wrongful termination lawsuit that would go nowhere. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. Patterson continued. Chief Thorne, the board would like to formally offer you the position of Director of Emergency Medicine, full administrative authority over the department, competitive salary, benefits. And we would like to apologize. I have conditions, Evelyn said. She turned from the window. Patterson blinked. Of course. What are your... 1. Evelyn held up a finger. Every physician in this hospital does 1 12-hour shift per month as floor staff. Nurses, orderlies, transport, support, no exceptions. No excuses. You learn humility or you leave. The room was silent. Several doctors looked uncomfortable. 2. Hiring decisions for emergency medicine are mine alone. I want veterans, combat medics, field experience, people who've worked in austere conditions, people who know what real pressure looks like. I want competence, not pedigree. 3. Any staff member who witnesses bullying, harassment, or abuse of power reports it directly to me. Zero tolerance policy. First offense is suspension without pay. Second offense is immediate termination. I don't care if you bring in $1 million in grants, respect is non-negotiable. 4. We establish a combat veteran hiring preference. Former military medical personnel get priority consideration. They've earned it. Patterson looked at the board members, whispered consultation. They nodded. All conditions accepted, Patterson said. Welcome aboard, Director Thorne. I haven't said yes yet, Evelyn replied. Admiral Blackwood stood, faced her. Evelyn, the Navy wants you back. Full rank restoration. Position at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Train the next generation of combat medics. Develop protocols. Save the institution. You'd be based in Washington, D.C. Flagstaff position. Evelyn looked at him. This man had been her mentor, her friend, had saved her career multiple times, had fought for her when others wanted her gone. Sir, I appreciate that more than you know, but I'm needed here. Here? Blackwood raised an eyebrow. In this hospital that fired you? That treated you like dirt? These people need help, sir. They need leadership. They need someone who remembers what the job is actually about. Not grants, not publications, not media appearances. The patient. The person in front of you who's dying. That's what matters. She turned back to Patterson and the board. I'll take the position. On my terms. All 4 conditions. Non-negotiable. Patterson exhaled with relief. Thank you, Chief. Sorry. Director Thorne. Dr. Thorne, Evelyn corrected gently. Or Director. But not Chief anymore. That life is over. This is different. The board meeting ended. People filed out. But Senator Ashford asked Evelyn to stay for a moment. When they were alone, just the senator, Admiral Blackwood, and Evelyn, the senator's formal demeanor softened. Chief Thorne, sorry, Director Thorne, I need to thank you properly. Preston is home now, with Emily and Claire, because of you. His voice broke slightly. My sister called me. She couldn't stop crying. Said she was going to lose her son, but she didn't. Because you dove into hell and brought him back. I was doing my job, Senator, Evelyn said. No, you did far more than your job. You risked your life. Suffered decompression sickness. Yes, I know about the hospital stay, don't think I don't. To save men you didn't know. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is from Preston. He wanted me to give it to you personally. Evelyn opened it. Inside was a child's drawing, crayon. A stick figure woman with silver hair, wearing a cape. Next to her, a smaller figure labeled Daddy, hearts drawn around both. At the bottom, in adult handwriting, thank you for bringing my daddy home. Claire Ashford, age 2, dictated to Mommy. Evelyn stared at the drawing, felt her eyes sting, blinked hard. Tell Preston he doesn't owe me anything. Tell Claire to hug her daddy tight. I will. And Dr. Thorne, if you ever need anything, anything at all, my office has your number now. After they left, Evelyn stood alone in the conference room, held the drawing. Thought about Danny, about all the ones she'd lost, all the faces she still saw at night. Then she thought about Marcus Webb's baby girl named Evelyn, about Claire hugging her daddy, about 7 men breathing because she'd refused to quit. The balance would never be even, would never be fair, but it was better than it had been. 6 months later, Chicago Mercy Hospital ER. Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock. Evelyn stood at the head of the main trauma bay, teaching. Around her, 8 residents, 4 attending physicians, 6 nurses including Sharon and Tom, all taking notes. Tension pneumothorax, Evelyn said. She pointed to the X-ray on the screen. Classic presentation. Tracheal deviation. Absent breath sounds. Hypotension. Distended neck veins. You have minutes to act. Maybe seconds. The question is not if you should decompress. The question is, how fast can you do it safely? A young resident raised her hand. Dr. Sarah Martinez, 28 years old, top of her class at Northwestern, former Army medic, Afghanistan veteran. Dr. Thorne, if you suspect tension pneumo, but you're not 100% certain, do you decompress anyway? Yes, Evelyn said without hesitation. Every time. The risk of not acting is death, certain death. The risk of acting on a misdiagnosis is a small chest wound that heals in 2 weeks. Choose life. Always choose life. The residents scribbled notes frantically. On the wall behind Evelyn, a plaque. Chicago Mercy Hospital Emergency Department. Mortality rate down 34%. Since March. Patient satisfaction up 52%. Staff retention 96%. Average response time 2 minutes. And below it another plaque. In memory of all those we could not save, may we honor them by saving the next one. Evelyn's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. Lecture came first. Any other questions? She asked. Sharon raised her hand. Sharon, who 6 months ago had called her pathetic, who'd whispered about her washing out. Now Sharon was her deputy director, her right hand. Dr. Thorne, we have a nursing student asking about your background, your service. She wants to know if military medicine is very different from civilian. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. She rarely talked about her service, even now. It's different, she finally said. In combat medicine, you don't have time for doubt. You don't have protocols to review. You don't have attendings to consult. You have a kid bleeding out in the sand, and you have 30 seconds to save him or watch him die. Every decision is final. Every mistake is fatal. She looked at each of them. But the principles are the same. Stop the bleeding. Secure the airway. Support the circulation. Treat the patient, not the monitor. And remember, they're not a trauma. They're not a case. They're someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's whole world. Tom, the male nurse, spoke up. Is it true you saved 17 Marines in one firefight? Evelyn picked up her tablet, changed the X-ray on screen. Next case. 52-year-old male, chest pain. Let's talk about... Please, doctor. Thorne, Tom pressed gently. We want to know. We want to understand. Evelyn sighed. Set down the tablet. Kandahar. 2009. IED ambush vehicle hit. Casualties everywhere. I did what I was trained to do, that's all. That's not all, Sharon said quietly. She pulled something from her pocket. The trauma shears. Black. Worn. With the engraving E. Thorne. CMOUSN. I kept these, Sharon said. After that night with the gunshot patient, I saw the engraving. Didn't know what it meant. But I knew they were important. I knew you were important. I should have asked, should have looked closer, should have treated you with the respect you deserved. She walked forward, held out the shears. These belong to you. Evelyn took them, felt the familiar weight, the balance, the history. Thank you, Sharon, for keeping them, and thank you, for showing us what leadership looks like, what integrity looks like. You could have left after everything we did, everything I did, but you stayed. You changed this place, you changed me. Sharon's eyes were wet. I'm sorry for what I said, what I did. I was wrong, and I'm trying to be better. Evelyn put a hand on Sharon's shoulder. We're all trying to be better. That's what matters. The lesson continued. But something had changed. The atmosphere was different, warmer, real. After the session ended, Evelyn checked her phone. 3 missed calls, Admiral Blackwood, 1 text message, serious situation developing. Chemical attack, mass casualties, need medical team lead, wheels up 0400 tomorrow. You in? Evelyn stared at the message, looked at the ER, at her staff, at the department she'd built, looked at the plaque, the mortality rates, the lives saved. She typed, how long? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. I'll need coverage for the department, already arranged. Dr. Sarah Martinez is ready. Evelyn looked at the young resident, former Army medic, combat veteran, smart, capable, ready. She typed, I'm in. Put the phone away, walked to her office, Tomorrow she'd deploy, back to the war, back to the chaos. But tonight, she had work to do here. That evening, Evelyn sat in her office. Paperwork, always paperwork. Director meant administration. She'd traded surgery for spreadsheets sometimes. A knock on the door. Come in. It was a young woman, not hospital staff, civilian clothes, holding a baby, maybe 3 months old. Dr. Thorne? I'm Amy Webb, Marcus's wife. Evelyn stood. Mrs. Webb, please sit down. Amy sat, adjusted the baby. This is Evelyn, Evelyn Marie Webb. We named her after you. Marcus said, if not for you, she wouldn't have a father. I wouldn't have a husband. The baby cooed, reached tiny hands toward Evelyn. May I? Evelyn asked. Please. Evelyn took the baby, held her, light as air. Perfect. New. She's beautiful. Marcus wanted to come, but he's on deployment. He wrote you a letter. Amy handed her an envelope. Evelyn opened it later, after Amy left. After the office was quiet, the letter was simple. Chief Thorne, you gave me a second chance at life, at being a father, at being a husband. I don't know how to thank you, but I promise I'll make it count. Every day, every moment with my daughter. I'll make it count. Thank you for not giving up on me. Marcus Webb. Evelyn folded the letter, put it in her desk drawer, next to Claire's drawing, next to Danny's photo, the one she'd saved, the one she couldn't. The balance was better now. Not even, never even. But better, across town, strip mall in Schaumburg, between a nail salon and a tax preparation office. Dermalux Medical Spa and Wellness Center. Inside, Dr. Donovan Ashford prepared a Botox injection for a client. His hands shook more than usual. The tremor had gotten worse over 6 months. The client, a woman in her 50s, noticed. Doctor, are you okay? Fine, Ashford said, forced a smile. Just need to concentrate. He'd been here for 6 months. After the termination, after his father refused his calls, after Yale disavowed him, after every major hospital in the country turned him down, after the medical board investigation, after the malpractice lawsuits, this was all that was left. Cosmetic injections, lip fillers, chemical peels, laser hair removal. He made $28,000 a year. His apartment was a studio near the highway. His BMW had been repossessed. His wife had filed for divorce. Everything gone. Because of one woman, one night, one decision. His hand trembled as he approached the client's face with the needle. You know what? The woman said, standing up abruptly. I think I'll reschedule. I just remembered I have somewhere to be. She left. Ashford sat down heavily, put his head in his hands. The front desk receptionist appeared. Young, sympathetic. Dr. Ashford, your 3 o'clock canceled. And your 4 o'clock. Of course they did. There's another video circulating. The one from the hospital. Someone made it into a TikTok. It has 12 million views. The comments are, I know what the comments are, Jennifer. She hesitated. I'm sorry, doctor. After she left, Ashford sat alone in the small procedure room. He'd had everything. Prestige, respect, future. He was going to be chief of surgery by 40, director by 45, presidential medal by 50, and he'd thrown it away because his ego couldn't handle being wrong, because he'd fired a war hero for saving a life. In the distance, sirens wailed. An ambulance rushing past, going to Chicago Mercy probably, going to save someone, going to do work that mattered. And he was here, injecting poison into faces to make people look younger while he grew older and smaller and more forgotten every day. This was justice. This was earned. He heard laughter from the nail salon next door. Normal people, normal lives, people who'd never had what he'd had, and never lost it all. Donovan Ashford closed his eyes and wondered if he'd ever be able to open them again without seeing her face, without seeing Chief Medical Officer Evelyn Thorne, the ghost, the woman who'd been invisible, until she wasn't. Chicago Mercy Hospital, Evelyn's office. Late evening, Evelyn finished her paperwork, signed off on the last protocol, shut down her computer. Tomorrow, she'd fly to Syria. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Chemical attack, mass casualties. The kind of situation where every decision mattered, where every second counted. The kind of situation she was built for. She stood, stretched. Her back protested. The shrapnel would always be there. The pain would always come back. But she'd learned to carry it, learned that scars were just proof you'd survived. She grabbed her jacket, turned off the lights, walked through the quiet ER. Third shift was on duty. New residents, good kids, they waved, she waved back. Pushed through the main entrance, out into the Chicago night. Her truck was in the same spot, still dented, still rusted. She climbed in, started it. The engine coughed once, then caught. Reliable. Her phone buzzed. Text from Viper. "See you at 0400. Coffee's on me." She smiled, typed back, "Roger, ghost out." Put the phone down. Looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Silver hair, lines around her eyes, scars she couldn't see but felt every day. 56 years old, exhausted, broken in places that wouldn't heal, but alive, still fighting, still saving. Because that was who Evelyn Thorne was. Not a cleaning lady, not a victim, not invisible, a healer, a warrior. A woman who'd learned that the hardest battles weren't fought with weapons or words. They were fought with competence, with integrity, with the courage to stand up when everyone told you to sit down. She put the truck in gear. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, another mission, another chance, another life to save, because you couldn't save everyone. But that didn't mean you stopped trying. That was the whole point. The trying was everything. Evelyn drove into the Chicago night, toward home, toward rest, toward tomorrow. The ghost was ready. She always had been.